Hi, I'm Mariana Danilovich with Ultra Live TV, and we're here with Leah Rodgers, who is the liaison between Universal and Bungalo, which is, I believe, is a production company.
No. No. Bungalo is a record company. Universal Music Group is a parent distribution company. I'm the senior vice president and label liaison. What that means is that I sign record labels to Universal. That's what.
Wow, he's got probably the most important job out of anyone we've spoken to so far. So, pleasure to meet you, and thank you for coming to Digital Hollywood. Could you tell us what are you seeing as trends in the creation of music labels? Is there proliferation of them because of the digital media platforms? What's happening in your business?
I think for the independent, smaller record label and the smaller artists, it has leveled the playing field for them. Some people think that this is, because of the erosion and the degradation of the music sales. Some people think that this is the worst time to be in the music business. We at Bungalow Universal feel that this is the best time to get in the music business because there's so many other opportunities in terms of getting and exploiting your product and getting it out there to market that was not available 10 years ago. So I see it as a greater, grander opportunity for anybody that wants to get into the market right now because of just the different avenues that you have available to you.
So, as you actually are doing A&R for labels, how does that process work? What do you look for?
And what I normally look for, we any label that we sign to Universal, they have to have a roster. They have to have not a one artist roster. They have to have the roster and a budget to be able. Because what happens is they have to be able to sustain themselves financially before we can come in and kick in financially. And so, but with that roster, they have to have good, viable artists. And I do get involved in A&R, the artists as well. But mainly, we look for financial sovereignty and a roster.
So it's almost like an incubator for labels. How far along does this budget have to be? What are some of the ranges of budgets of the labels that you actually brought into Universal through the program?
Anywhere from $100,000 per release. So, and if probably the smallest quarter of a million to 20 million, that range. But, I have signed labels that have had the audience. They may not have had the financial wherewithal or the big budgets. But if they had a big marketing, they had a following, a web presence, then we look at all of that and consider that in terms of the potential of revenue that label could bring based on what they've already done.
How big of an audience are you looking for, and what kind of genres of music?
We are cross-sectional, R&B, hip-hop, country, gospel, jazz. We're now doing a lot more rock, dance hall, pop, everything.
And the audience sizes?
The audience sizes anywhere from 100,000 to probably 5 million.
That's quite an audience. So, MySpace, according to Mr. Murdoch's quote from, I would say, last week, is the place to launch new bands and new artists, and they view that piece of their business as a launch pad. Have you actually picked up some of the labels that were launching artists on MySpace and converted them into this model?
Not personally. Most of the labels they normally find me. I go to these. I speak at a lot of these conferences, and after I do my little spell or whatever, they normally you know, migrate toward me and they introduce themselves. And so I can say that the MySpace is a great tool for giving an artist or label that did not have a market presence just a large presence overnight. Take YouTube. I mean, they have on the social networking side, they have people that are discovered and become overnight success based on just the migration of the viral marketing that just take off from these social networks. You know?
And you would pick up some of those artists and or labels.
Yeah. We've had a couple of them that have come from having a major presence and social networking, MySpace, YouTube, and have gotten introduced to me at conferences and said, this is somebody you need to look at. They have an audience. They have 300,000 hits a day, or they have, one of our artists had 1.2 million views on her video on YouTube, and so that was somebody that we really got behind.
And when Universal gets behind the artists, is it kind of like Mr. Gordy's model, or is it more of an individual model for what works for that artist, or is there sort of a process you can put an artist through to make them a star?
There's no cookie cutter anymore. I mean, in all due respect to Mr. Gordy, great. A lot of love for him. I know I met him a couple of times. The time that he started Motown was ripe for that time. But I think Mr. Gordy and some of the other legends from the past, if they were to start in this market, they would have a tough time.
So it's hard to really take someone who even has a following and have somewhat of a predictive model of building them into a brand and franchise.
When you think that you have in this market, the formula that used to work in the brick and mortar 10 years ago no longer apply to that. It's like which way the wind is blowing. It's almost like a crapshoot. But you have to have certain basic things that you have to have in place in marketing, promotion, drive, touring, all of those basic things, sales, retail, to help make the success. But, there's some people that have very little, but they have an audience, and they can have success. I have artists and labels that have sold tens of millions of records and selling less than someone that is unknown, because that unknown person has a social networking presence and this other legend doesn't.
Yeah, sometimes evergreen artists are not necessarily as versed in social media as some of the up-and-coming bands like One Republics of the world and so on. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, it's a great pleasure to meet you, and I really appreciate you sharing this with our audience, because our audience always is asking about ways to actually make a business, create a business in this space, and there's a way where one can incubate a label in essence and then take it over and have Universal, help it get to the next level, like a venture capital fund.
That's exactly what we do, the incubation. I sign the labels that have potential, and I tell them, when you reach this milestone, we'll kick in. But you got it. This is the milestone that you got to reach before we'll kick in financially. So you got to go and do your legwork, the grassroots stuff. Don't give up that because you now are signed with Universal. That's not the end. That's the beginning.
There is quite a rigor associated with making it.
That's right.
We really appreciate your time, and thank you for the interview, and we look forward to seeing you at Digital Hollywoods again.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you.